Camelia Entekhabifard is an Iranian affairs analyst and author of Save Yourself by Telling the Truth. She joins us now from Dubai. Thank you very much for talking to us on TRT World. So, do these sanctions violate the Treaty of 1955, and what is the argument there?
Thanks for hosting me. The treaty has been signed back to 1955 when the two countries, Iran and the US, having their peak time of the good relations. But we have to remember, since the revolution, not only we have those diplomatic, no relation between the two countries, but also we had the hostage crisis too, which it led to taking American hostages for 444 days. At that time, if we want to say the US has the rights to complain to the Court of The Hague, but it didn't because they were appealing now. This treaty has been dismissed since the revolution because the diplomatic relation has been severed between the two countries. So that could be the US part of the argument. But for the Iranian point of the view, I believe that they don't believe even at this treaty, but they are seeing the opportunities now to seize this momentum and try to prevent the implementation of the first round of the sanctions, which it considered the harshest one on November the 4th. They were feeling and they are expressing that the order of the chief executive of the court to the US foreign minister until to review the case, which it may take for the 2 years, it's a case for stopping the execution of this order by President Trump. Hard to say if the US is going to obey, even if the court asking for, but this is the bite which Iranians so much counting on.
But since Trump reinstated the sanctions, how much of an effect has it had on Iran's economy and everyday life?
So look, when we had the first round of the sanctions, the currency, the local currency's value collapsed against of the US dollar. It lost 70% of its value. They are estimating the second round of the sanction would be even decrease the value of the local currency, and all it happened to make the public so much angry, which on and off since January, we had lots of spontaneous demonstration in Iran. Such a hard sanction, we don't know what the reaction of the public will be, but they were thinking definitely it would be very harsh against of the system. The sanctions had an impact on the routine Iranian daily life. For example, the price of the medicines and the cost of living so much increased in a comparison to 6 months ago. And there are lots of complaints against of the system and the government. In order President Rouhani can survive his last 2 years of his presidency, he needs to at least prevent the next round of the sanction, which is on the oil industry. Tomorrow, President Rouhani is due to go to the parliament. He's summoned to answer some questions. But if the PM members hasn't been satisfied, and if the other round of the sanctions implement, there is a possibility for the president impeachment by the parliament.
So, I mean, the divide between Europe and Washington over the Iran nuclear deal is very clear. Where do you think it will go from here after ICJ's decision as well?
Hard to say. We were saying the president and his people were willing to meet President Trump, or at least some people from his administration. Then we had another messages from the Supreme Leader and the Revolutionary Guards people, which they refused any talk with President Trump and his team. These gaps between the hardliner and the conservatives in the system is one issue, and the other issue is the United States, which they really don't want anything rather than sitting with the Iranians on the table. Even we heard a few days ago the top security advisor to President Trump says in Israel that the United States even wouldn't be agree to not implementing the sanction in November, even if Iranian wants to withdraw from Syria, which you understand Syria is quite important for Israel to seeing Iranian has been leaving Syria, or they were withdrawing the troops from Syria. So I want to say President Trump only is willing to sitting with the Iranian face to face, and so far this is very difficult to say it can be completed. Perhaps President Trump is waiting to see how much these sanctions could convince the Iranian to meet him by person, and maybe President Rouhani and the system they were bidding to see if President Trump can finish and complete his term in the White House. It's very difficult. We can make any judgments or seeing the forecast, but in the next 2 to 3 months, anything can be happen, from the impeachment of President Rouhani or more demonstration in Iran, and also some changes maybe in the U.S. policy. We have to give this time until at least end of November to can have a better judgment.
Well, we have to wrap it up here. Thank you very much for that insight there, Camelia Entekhabifard.